So I feel like we're in a Netflix series, and we've watched part 1 and part 2, and we can't wait to sit down tonight and watch and hear and listen to part 3.
I know. Talk about like drama, real life, hard things, but also inspiring things.
Welcome to Family Life Today, where we want to help you pursue the relationships that matter most. I'm Shelby Abbott, and your hosts are Dave and Ann Wilson. You can find us at FamilyLifeToday.com or on the Family Life app.
This is Family Life
Today.
If you've been journeying with us the last 2 days, and if you haven't, I'm just telling you, you should go back to part 1, day 1, day 2. I think you're on the edge of your seat like we are, because we're sitting back here with Rod and Rachel Brown, who are back in the studio. We can't ask you to tell your story all over again, but we'll just say welcome back.
Thank you.
And the short version would be Rachel was married twice, and both husbands died. And again, listeners, you went, what? Go listen. Incredible, heartfelt story. And now...
And you had 2 children, a boy and a girl, with your second marriage.
Yeah, and they were 6 and 4 years old, and now you're married to Rod, who's sitting here.
Which was a pretty sweet, romantic kind of story of how you met, got together. It was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, honestly, when you were telling that yesterday, I did not see where it was going to turn.
Yeah.
You know, even though I've read through your book, I didn't remember hearing this part, so I'm like... Wow, this is awesome. You're married, you've got your man.
Yep.
And then you talk about struggle with anger and depression. So that's where we were yesterday.
Well, now you're in a long-term struggle in a marriage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is very different from what you've experienced before. And we brought you in to talk about your book, His Name, Our Hope in Grief.
Right.
And we've barely skimmed the surface of the book because your story has been riveting and seeing God at work in both of you.
Yeah, so can you catch us up a little bit about, you're now married. Was this struggle with depression for you, Rod, and some of your anger, Rachel, was that like year 1?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it hit pretty hard and pretty fast.
Yes. I mean, I could feel it underlying, but I just did not know what it was until, October when we were at this retreat serving together, and then I'm just finding myself unable to do something very simple. It was
like
almost, we were actually making a pancake breakfast. And I ran Chick-fil-A's for 2 or 3 years of my life, and I could be in the kitchen and be doing, 16 things all at once and do everything. And here I was struggling to do this, one thing. And that's kind of when I was like, something's really wrong with me. I think besides just feeling this, unusual feeling day after day after day, I'm just kind of like the walls are closing in on me.
And I don't know that taking your newly blended family on a mission trip is like the greatest idea, 6 months into marriage. But
And your kids were how old?
Oh, they were 5 and 7.
Yeah, 5 and 7.
We were like, this is the greatest idea we've ever had. And Rod was like, I've always wanted to take my family. And honestly, we had a great time. And our kids for years said that was their favorite vacation. We were like, well, that was anything but a vacation. Let me just remind you.
Rachel, you said yesterday you're trying to cover this up for the kids, knowing that Rod's going through this struggle of anxiety, and because you're trying to protect them because they've already lost their dad.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I did not want them to see or own that we caused this, you know, because I know how sensitive, kids can be. And when they're like, Dad, something's wrong with Dad, and did we do that? We'd just gotten married, and they were so excited to have a dad, and I really did want to protect Rod. As angry as I was, I didn't want that to spill over. And the spill is real, as we all know, with illness in your family. But it was this hopelessness to it. I'm not going to lie. In sickness and in health, is that going to be like there's not going to be any health?
Like, is this my new normal?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, on my worst day, I wanted out. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was just like, I want to quit this, because me and the kids, we had it pretty good, and that's marriage, Yeah. I mean, it's like a single woman with 2 kids, and, we were kind of living our best life. And this was like upsetting the apple cart, like big time. And, I mentioned yesterday before we left that the Lord sat me down and really taught me the power of communion. So as I broke the bread, because I will tell you, I really think that so many wives and husbands like impede each other's healing with unforgiveness. And I think forgiveness is the root that unlocks marriages. It unlocks futures. It unlocks healing. It unlocks identity, because we hold things and the body keeps score.
And now, had you told Rod? I mean, was this something you verbalized? I'm mad at God.
Yeah,
I'm sort of mad at you.
I could see it. I could definitely see it.
And you said you felt shame about it.
Tons of it. Yeah.
Judgment and shame, like we're having a baby in our house and just perpetuating. I mean, my judgment and pride, and like, I didn't struggle with this, and I've lost 2 husbands. Like, get yourself together. That's what people who have not struggled with depression, that's what they think. Can you just like get over yourself? And that is not helpful. And I was being anything but helpful, and probably a little passive aggressive. I mean, I'm sure a little bit of the silent treatment. Like, I can't deal with you. Like, I just
see
needed
Rod
to
shaking
look away.
his head. Yes. Usually when somebody says a little passive aggressive, it's a lot more than we think. Is that what you're feeling? That was happening a little bit?
Yes. And at the same time, I think that I choose to move past that time, so I don't really try to remember it in details. I just know there was so many new things, learning to become a father. I mean, the kids were calling me dad, and, they loved me before. I mean, Campbell, our daughter, like the first day I met her, she started calling me dad, which was, 5 months before we got married. The day we're getting married, Davis is up there with us, and he, the pastor's praying over us, and he's just like, "Thank you, Mr. Rod. Thank you, Mr. Rod." Because I'm, marrying his mom, going to be his dad. So, I just have these precious children in my life, and a woman that I'm so excited to be married to.
But a weightiness.
Yes, this weightiness. And then, you're learning to communicate, with your spouse. I mean, we were been in 2 different states, so you're learning. Her personality is very different than mine. Our upbringings are very different, so you're learning to navigate all of that. And now I'm a father. She's been the mom to them for, years. One of the early conversations we had, because I'd seen this go wrong with friends. I said, hey, I'm not going to discipline them for at least 6 months. And I'm not going to like demand they call me like dad or anything. They were already doing that. But I was just like, I'm not going to demand any of those things. I really want to come in as, as a supporter of yours and get to know the kids and just develop this relationship. Because for so many other people I'd seen, it was like coming in and now I'm the dad and, demanding these things. I'm like, I don't want to demand anything. I want to grow in love with them and become that they'll want to have that type of relationship.
I'm sure our blended families are totally resonating with all of this as well.
Oh, man. Yeah. And Rod did it right. I mean, that was like such a gift to the kids to not. But he would always call it, they've been in a system of mothering. And as we all know, a system of mothering is not a system of fathering.
That's true.
And
it's true.
He would be like, they've been in your system. I'm like, they have. It's just me, myself, and I parenting these kids. Because Blair died really before he got to really parent. There's a little bit going on, but he would leave at 6 and get home at 6:30, and they went to bed at 7. I mean, there wasn't a lot going on parenting-wise. So
yeah, and for me, it wasn't, hey, that's a negative. It's just a reality, and we need to face the realities.
Yeah.
There's reality, there's negative reality, there's real, positive reality, whatever. Yeah. But I've always just wanted to face, just to name them, and they're out there. There's just it's a reality, and I don't know that was a positive or negative reality. It was just is what it was, and we just had to learn, to do that together. For sometimes it'd feel like 3-on-1, and and I just had to be patient through that. I was just like, this is going to take time for us to be a family together. We actually went to a blended family retreat. Ron Deal.
Yeah.
He was saying, it takes 7, 8, 9 years. She's like, that's not going to be our story. It's not going to take us that long.
I was a blender. I was not a crock pot. Okay. I was like, I just refuse to partner with that. Like, we are different.
I remember I heard Ron share that, and so I've shared that with blended families, and they're shocked and angry, like it cannot take that long.
I know, and it takes every bit of that.
And it just takes time. I mean, I think children are different, and that relationship with them is different. So with a father and son, it might take less time than a father and daughter. For Campbell and I, it took a little bit longer, but the last 5-6 years have been amazing. But there was some stuff going on, before that, of her at some point wrestling with the grief of her father, who she never really knew. And all of a sudden, when she started grieving that, she didn't know, like, how do I love him and love Rod? I don't know how to do that. And so around 10 years old, she was really confused of, how do I do both of these? And I don't know that I'm going to call you dad because I have a dad already. And, some of those things that are heartbreaking. At the same time, I was just so excited that she shared them out loud and that we could start, working through that, which was very fast. Once she started admitting it, it was a fast journey back to a beautiful place. But it,
and let's say also,
it's different.
You have a high-pressure job that you're doing on top of that as well.
Yes.
And ministry.
Right. And it was changing a lot and dealing with a lot of new things there. And I think I would tell, I know you've been kind of sharing some advice. I would say anytime you're in trouble in anything, and I was in a lot of trouble in those months, whether it be asking for help parenting, asking for help at my job, like, hey, can you go on this trip with me? Because I just don't feel like myself. I would love your help. Friends, whatever, just ask for help, ask for help. And I'm so grateful that my pride didn't get in the way of that, because it easily could have, but I'm so glad it didn't.
Okay, Rachel, let's go back to, are you in your house alone?
Yeah.
As you're about to do communion?
Yeah, my mother-in-law was going to come over, and I told her she couldn't come. And I was like, I can't see the Brown family this day. I was just, it was kind of like the tip of the iceberg for me this day. And the Lord sat me down. I just was, in my own quiet time doing what I do. And it just became apparent to me that I was in, judgment and pride against Rod. And, I tell women this all the time, because I do think forgiveness is just such a, it's such the key to the door that we all wish we could open so many times, but we're just not willing to admit. And it was certainly that for me. And when I took communion that day, I broke the body. I just went and got a cracker, and I don't even think it was grape juice. I didn't have any. And I broke his body, and it was just like I had revelation around what I'd been doing my whole life. And I broke the body, and it was like, I'm breaking this for Rod's body to be healed, and for you to be healed, and for you to extend healing to Rod. It's very difficult to articulate, because it was just such a moment between me and the Lord. There almost aren't words adequate. And then I just remember really seeing Jesus on the cross with the crown of thorns on his head. And I truly believe, for anybody who's experiencing depression and anxiety, really focusing on the crown of thorns being pressed on his head, because there was something about Rod's brain was being just pressed. And I just think Jesus took all that with the crown on his head for depression, for anxiety, for all these things. He was bloodied. And so that was the thing. And I just saw myself extending forgiveness to Rod, extending forgiveness to myself for the judgment and the pride that I'd had. And then just, drinking and just really assuming that forgiveness for myself, forgiving Rod's body. I mean, it was just this mashup of all the things that I'd really missed in communion. I just never fully understood it. And too much has been forgiven, too much do you want to forgive, and I just never really gotten it. And after that, I think, it was that moment where I just released him to heal and just stopped kind of holding him in contempt. And I think as wives, we can do that. And our oneness creates that, and so that just freedom for Rod to heal, freedom from my judgment, freedom from my pride, freedom from my unforgiveness. I don't think there was a walking out of it, as with anything, but it was definitely, and then I went and prayed with a woman A friend invited me to go have prayer on this little cottage in Milton, probably about a month after Lighthouse Family Retreat when he really had his breakdown. And at this prayer session, which I didn't want to be at, and I'd never been to anything like this. And she looked at me and she was like, Rachel Brown. And she was like, she opened her Bible and she didn't know me at all. And she looked at me and she was like, the picture I see is a crocus coming up out of a winter snow. And she was like, has your life been really hard? I mean, it was this random woman who I didn't know. And it was like God himself said, Rachel, I see your life's been hard. And I still go back to that day because I just, as much as all of us who've been through hard things, you just want to know that God knows, and you know that he knows, but yet you don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, does he see me? Like, this has really sucked. Does he see how sad this has made me to have Rod so sick? And I'm deep in it at this point. And y'all, I start like dry heave crying. And there were 2 other people in the room that knew my story. And they were crying with me because it was like she said, the God of the universe knows your heart.
He sees
you.
And
then she said, you will declare the goodness of God before the nations. And I knew it was true. I was not in ministry at this point. I mean, I'm like just a mom with a depressed husband in Milton, Georgia, and 2 kids. But I knew I had a story to tell. I knew God was calling me into this life. And that's when I started Be Still. It was about 6 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Rod, how did you dig out? I mean, did you sense
a change
in Rachel towards you? And did that help or?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I don't know, exactly when the timing of it, but I definitely remember a switch. I think, some great counseling, some great truth, us learning how to communicate with each other better. And I was actually on some medication for probably 26, 27 months at the time. And even when it came time, even at some point I told Rachel, on the medication, I was like, I'd be fine staying on this the rest of my life. I mean, if I need to be on a medication, I'm okay with that. But I knew that I wasn't fully experiencing life. I think there was a tad dull on it. And so I just, talked to my doctor about getting off, and I didn't have any problems getting off. And so, slowly. Slowly. And then, so it's probably been 6.5 years, I guess, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 7, but at least 6.5.
Well, and now you get to help men who are in the same situation, which
right.
is like so hard for men to talk about because it's embarrassing. And, a lot of times they're suicidal. And
can't tell you how many men I've talked to who have expressed that, whether it be anxiety or depression or early in marriage or about to get married and having a bunch of things. It's just amazing how many people, somebody will tell somebody, I won't even know the person, but they'll, hey, I've referred to this guy to you. Is it okay if he calls you? Yes, And so many pastors too, It's
and we're living in silence and in darkness. And when it's there, Satan can have a heyday with us personally in our marriages. So people have really surrounded you guys and helped you as you are now helping so many.
Yeah. Well, and on our retreats, on our widows retreats, we take 20 women on the small retreats. And I would say of those 25% are suicides. It's a rampant problem, and you cannot heal outside of community. And, as the nation becomes more disconnected, I do think it is a symptom of a disconnected world. I think for us, it's just like staying connected to people and being honest. Like vulnerability is where it's at. To me, there's just, hiding is the most miserable place ever. And I'm just so thankful for Rod that he was able to heal to a place to help others. That's the most amazing part of healing is how can I learn from this and how can I help others?
Right.
I mean, you've been married 10 years now.
10 years.
So that was
professionals.
All year one-ish? Yeah, year.
Yeah.
That was in the first 5 months.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
What's it like now? What's your marriage? How has this impacted the kids? How's the family? I mean,
maybe one day I get to talk with the kids and see if they even noticed anything.
Really?
I have talked to both of them in the last year just because I feel like my son is old enough for him, so I've shared things with him. And then something happened with our daughter this fall that kind of, I felt like opened the door for me to share a little more with her. But I'm really not sure to this day how impacted. But I know for us, I just feel like we have grown for sure. I can say for sure every year, since then, we've grown together more closely as we have really more owned our identity, I think more and more every year. Just learned how to support each other. I mean, that's why I feel like my role is in this ministry. What can I do to support her? What kind of, is it folding chairs? Is it, is it speaking at a fundraiser? Is it, I was on her board for the first few years just to, I've been on board of other ministries, but wanted to come on, but also wanted to get off as soon as possible just because it's hers, and family being on the board. I really want, but I did that for a few years. So I feel like my role with her ministry is just like introduce people, talk to people, whatever she needs. And I just want to help her and all of those things. If it's taking care of the kids for, the retreat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
My role with her is support her in be still, never alone, and all those kind of things. But in marriage, I feel like we get it better all the time.
Yeah,
we understand each other better all the time. And we laugh about what we used to would cry and yell about. We can now just like our different personalities, we just know each other. And it's just fun to be able to really trust each other. And the trust took a long time, to really go, hey, I believe in your advice and your wisdom. And then I think for both ways, it took us a while.
Shelly Giglio posted probably 4 years ago, don't be afraid to love the hardest. And I'm telling you what, like, you just live by statements that you hear other people say, like, whatever you want to call those mantras, whatever. And I remember it just pierced my heart because I was just like, I never want to be afraid to love the hardest. And I feel like we've lost financially, a person that was very close to us that, stole from a lot of us. We just checked our daughter out of a residential treatment program for an eating disorder in December. And that was, the hardest thing I've ever done besides losing 2 husbands. It was worse. It was exponentially worse. And we did it well. I feel like we weather well. And I think one of the big things for me is I just realized that, when you sign up and when you surrender, life is just going to be probably pretty hard. And when you can just get to that place where you're like, life is hard, and yet all of these beautiful things are happening to me, and life is still hard, and Rod and I are at that place, and I don't think there's anything that we couldn't go through, and yet I know that, we're doing it, and we're just laying our children at his feet because they're not ours.
And it's hard to do that, isn't it?
It is so hard. But we're learning it on another level, and everything that we go through is for us to learn and to give away to others. And our kids, I tell them, your pain is your superpower.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
All of our pain. Collectively, all of our pain is our superpower. And, I look at the Gospels and I'm like, their lives just weren't easy.
At all.
So I'm kind of like, why would we think ours was going to be easy? But I'm glad I get to do it with Rod.
Hi, I'm Shelby Abbott, and you've been listening to Dave and Ann Wilson with Rachel Faulkner-Brown and Rod Brown on Family Life Today. It might seem to a degree that Rachel's story is all wrapped up with a bow, but we know that's not the case, and she and Rod know that that's not true either. Destinations in the Christian life are rarely what satisfy us, but often what we look for, because a relationship with God, in the good and the bad, in the process, is just as important, if not more so, than the actual destinations. Well, Rachel has helped us to see that. And she's written a book called His Name, Our Hope in Grief. This is a book that we believe in so much that we want to send a copy to you as our thanks when you give today. Family Life Today is a donor-supported ministry, and it would not exist without the dedication of our Family Life partners. We wholeheartedly appreciate you if you give. And if you have yet to join us, we'd love it if you'd consider partnering with us today. And when you do, again, as our thanks, we're going to send you a copy of Rachel Faulkner-Brown's book called his name. You can partner with us financially today at FamilyLifeToday.com, or you can give us a call at 800-358-6329. That could be a one-time gift or a recurring monthly gift. Again, the number is 800, F as in family, L as in life, and then the word today. All right, let's hear more from everyone to be encouraged about what we often fail to remember.
You guys are such a light. You're such an inspiration. Your realness, your honesty, your story, but your surrender to Jesus continually has been just so empowering to all of us. And you guys, our listeners, you're going to want to get this book.
Oh, I'll just say,
it's
as I read through it,
it's a devotional.
Yeah,
it reminded me of what I often forget. Your story does, but just as you go through, he's our peace.
Yeah.
He provides.
Yeah.
He's Yahweh. Yeah. I mean, he's the great I am. I mean, it's just a reminder that we all need to lay our foundation on. This is who he is.
Yeah.
We're not alone.
No.
He is seeing us. He is with us, and he will provide.
Yeah, he will.
He will.
He has.
Coming up tomorrow on Family Life Today is our very own, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Bob Lepine. He's going to be talking to us about forgiveness in marriage, resolving conflict, and seeing patterns in our marriage that aren't healthy that we need to bring to the Lord. That's coming up tomorrow. We hope you'll join us. On behalf of Dave and Ann Wilson, I'm Shelby Abbott. We'll see you back next time for another edition of Family Life Today. Family Life Today is a donor-supported production of Family Life, a Cru ministry, helping you pursue the relationships that matter most.